business and financial support and even military support, but yet they still talk shit. And y'all still talking shit. So that's why we don't really have no heart about taking those jobs away from y'all. None at all.
And we're back with Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan. Good morning, and thank you for being here with us.
It's good to be here again, Margaret. Hope you're doing well.
Well, I'm hoping you can give us some clarity here on what's going on with the economy. Your Bank of America economists say no rate hikes this year and no recession. Is that still the case?
And shout out to my man Monty. He said sent you a DM on Discord. I mean, like, hey, somebody said we got low quality lumber. I mean, y'all said the same thing about our steel. Y'all said the same thing about our cars, our agricultural goods. Well, y'all about to F around and find out now.
After Friday's jobs report.
Yeah, it's still the case. And that's a less growth than they would have had 6-9 months ago, and reflects the impact of the tariff war and the trade and all that. But they still think we continues to grow. And we're growing at a slow rate, say 1.5% this year, a little more next year.
Oh, and this is the CEO of Bank of America. Let's make sure we get the whole interview here.
For being here with us.
It's good to be here again, Margaret. Hope you're doing well.
Well, I'm hoping you can give us some clarity here on what's going on with the economy. Your Bank of America economists say no rate hikes this year and no recession. Is that still the case after Friday's jobs report?
Yeah, it's still the case. And
no rate hikes, no recession. But what are the Dems fear mongering on? A recession.
That's a less growth than they would have had 6-9 months ago, and reflects the impact of the tariff war and the trade and all that. But they still think we continues to grow. And we're growing at a slow rate, say 1.5% this year, a little more next year, and a little more the year after that. But it'll take inflation for the Fed to get inflation out of the system really through the end of 26 into 27 down to the 2% level. And that's why they have the Fed holding. What they believe is sort of in the middle of next year, the Fed will start cutting and bring the Fed funds rate closer to what would be a more normal rate, around 3%, 3.5%.
So even though we saw this really kind of astounding dissent by two members of the Fed saying we do need to move on interest rates, your prediction from your economists is that that's not appropriate at this time.
They don't think they're going to move. Now, the market says they're going to move in September, maybe twice this year. The market was at 7 times 1 point this year. Now they're down to 2. Then they're down to 1. Now they're up to 2. This is going to move around. But the reality is two things people should really keep in focus. One is until the inflation is out of the system, the Fed's going to be very careful, and that's what they said. And then secondly, the rate we're going to go to is a rate that is more normal than pre-global financial crisis, more of a 3%, 3.5% rate, which actually means the American economy is probably functioning better, frankly.
So on that point, the Wall Street Journal, when we were reading in, puts the tariff tax increase as costing $360 billion a year. That's one of the largest tax increases in history, they say. Do you believe the administration's arguments that it's really only foreigners who are going to pay the cost of this? Do you think economists
yeah, because the way tariffs work is that, like I said, the importer who's going to be on U.S. soil, who's going to be the one buying it and paying the tariff at custom, he can pretty much pay the same before tariff price if they get the supplier to cut their prices. Yes, cut your prices, because think about it, they're buying this wholesale, so it's not that hard. But yeah, if they cut their prices to what these guys would be paying in tariff, then pretty much the supplier done ate the tariff for the importer, and the importer don't have to raise their price. Or they can split the tariff cost 50-50. I mean, they cut their price a little bit, the importer cuts their profit margin a little bit, so they don't got to pass down costs. It is completely false, erroneous, like it's an erroneous assessment to sit there and say that a 10% tariff will cause a 10% increase in price on the consumer.
Are overstating the negative impact.
Well, I think no one really knows, honestly, because this is a different regime than we've been in before. And so they're trying to extrapolate from things from 50 years ago when the economies are different structured. Our team thinks has an impact on inflation of about 30, 40 basis points.
Meaning adding to prices people are paying.
Yeah, adding to the inflation rate in the United States. But we need to back up. What the real impact right now is the new Trump administration coming in had 4 or 5 policy areas they were really going to go after, having learned in the 4 years they had to move very quickly. Those were around trade and tariff and immigration and taxation and deregulation. What businesses, and I just was in the Midwest with a bunch of businesses, are all trying to do is figure out what the answer will be so they can go ahead and make their plans for 26. So the activity that's slowed down has more to do with people just trying to figure out the answer. And it doesn't mean every answer is acceptable, but most answers are. So what they have answers on, obviously a tax bill getting done. That's a good answer for business because it makes the rates permanent. What's the second thing they have an answer on? They have an answer now on
Focus.
the range of trade possibilities.
Mhm.
And so as they think about the trade possibilities, they sit there and say, tariffs might not be worse than X. They see some deals getting done, all of which is good work. What they don't have an answer on is deregulation. Yes, new regulations stop, but they're hoping for more deregulation, so that will help their business models going forward. And then the last is immigration. What will immigration really settle in like? And that's what they tell us. So they're not using their lines of credit. They're not, the indications from them are they're being a little more cautious, really waiting for some answers.
I mean, yeah, I mean, let's be real. If they'd have got that rate cut, we'd have definitely seen employment spike. But hey, Powell's holding strong. Powell is holding strong on not cutting the rates. But even he believes that, you know what, Powell should cut the rates to at least 3.5. I believe we're at 4 point, I think we're like 4.1 or so. But yeah, the 3.5, it would help. But we really want it to like 3%, 2.5. That'd be great. And shout out to our man Vlad Steen. He says one of the worst cities I visited is Toronto. And well, whoops, wrong one. Hopefully it wasn't expensive though, but yeah.
Businesses aren't hiring either, we saw in this jobs data on Friday. That was the worst 3 months for job growth since the pandemic. Your firm, when I was reading the analysis, points to a number of different factors, and one of them is artificial intelligence and the adoption of that impacting hiring. How dramatically is it reshaping the job market?
Well, I think this is sort of a question of almost a glass half full, half empty type of thing. So the impact.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that. But the impact of technology on human work content as a percentage of productivity has been huge. In our company, in 2010, when I started with the management team, we had 285,000 people. We have 212,000 people today. That was the impact of technology. We're bigger, more customers, more transactions, more reports to the government, more data, et cetera. So the impact has always been huge. AI gives you a place to go that we've never been able to go before. In other words, they're jobs that take text, think about it, and produce it. Many, many jobs in our company, our research team. Now you're able to maybe use a machine to enhance that activity. So we believe that people who harness AI for their benefit are going to be very successful. That my teammates who harness AI for their benefit are very successful. It's nervous making for young kids now saying, will the jobs be there for me? And
right.
Then I say, look back historically, America has a lot more people working here, and think about the amount of
I mean, yeah, let's be real though. We did say the same thing about the internet as well and other technological advances. We were worried, like, oh, well, am I still going to be here? And well, people are still here. We kind of found a way to just work alongside technology. Now, hopefully AI doesn't completely take over, with the Tesla bots and all that. But hey, I mean, if they could find a way to subsidize every American to where they don't feel like they got to overtake the government for replacing us with AI robots, then I am all for it.
Technology came out over the last 50 years, and we have twice as many people work in this country as we did 50 years ago, twice as many. And the population's only gone up by about a third. So think about that dynamic as it finds its way through it. That's the glass half full part of it, but it will have an impact. I don't think it's impacting a lot right now because many companies are just trying to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Technology has impacted, and AI gives it a place to go. It hasn't gone so far.
So we're talking about all the unknowns and why it's kind of hard to model things right now.
Exactly.
Well, Friday, the president fired, as you know, the head statistician that comes up with these jobs numbers and
as he should
presents them to the public. The former.
Yes, look, this nice lady right here effed up. Miss Eric, Dr. Eric, doctor. I mean, goddamn, how you a doctor? You effed up that bad. But yes, Dr. Eric, the McIntariff. Funny is, I don't know why that's funny to me. But yes, Miss Erica right here, she effed up. She's the one who told us that, yeah, so in May, we got 130,000 jobs, and she revised that to 19,000. Yes, she's the one who effed up, guys. So it's not about Trump getting mad about bad news. It's about, you had one of the biggest revision f-ups in history. You gotta go. You broke a record in being wrong.
Ed, during the first Trump administration, came out in her defense and said this is without merit and it undermines credibility of data.
Right.
Are you
take
concerned by
that.
this firing?
And shout out to my man Monty, says AI is good. Said I challenge you to a debate. I'll be willing to debate that because I don't know. I'm just not fully sold on the whole like AI thing and it taking over for us. I'm just not fully sold on it. I think it will lead to a very bad outcome.
And do you feel there is political pressure here?
Well, I think that's more
Tariff.
politics, and I know I'm in Washington D.C. and that's what we're supposed to talk about.
Government
tariff-
data,
But the reality is the data.
hugely
It's
important to modeling,
It's
as you know.
2025. It's 2025, and the data should be able to be. They use surveys and things like that, which frankly just aren't as effective anymore. So if you look at the rate of people who respond to their surveys, it's down from 60% level to 50% level. You know, we don't use surveys as aggressively do. We watch what consumers really do. We watch what businesses really do. They can get this data, I think, other ways. And I think that's where the focus ought to be. How do we get the data to be more resilient and more predictable and more?
Because that is a problem. I mean, like how in May of 2025, you estimated 139,000, revised it to 19,000. June of 2025, she estimated 147,000, but then revised it to only 14,000. We're not mad about the numbers. The number still shows growth, even low growth. It still shows growth in employment. It's not like we're looking at negative law. Not like we're looking at a negative 19,000 or 14,000. That would be bad. No, we're looking at a positive. So it may be low growth. It's not the 100K that we wanted, but it's still growth. The problem is, though, how the hell does she get it at a 120,000 jobs off? How she get that off? And anybody who want to argue that that's within the margin of error, I mean, please come up and explain it to me because you're definitely wrong.
Or understandable, because what bounces around is restatements, and that was one of the largest restatements going back 5 or 7 years into the pandemic.
It's like, shout out to Vlad. He said, what? You scared of the singularity? Take D implants? Yes, I'm scared to take the D implants that will have my dick going in a circular motion and extending 3 inches further. Yes, I'm terribly scared of that. Or I'm scared of the AI robot that can do that. Because, I mean, how could I ever compete? So, shout out, Vlad. Okay, that was actually a good one.
5 years in the pandemic, that creates doubt around it. And so I think the key is let's spend some money. Let's bring the information together. Let's find where else in the government money is reported. We report millions and millions of data points to the government every day. The data is out there somewhere.
Finally, back in January, you were at Davos. President Trump talked about Bank of America.
Many conservatives complained that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business, and I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what.
Do you want to respond to the allegation that conservatives are not being allowed to do business with your bank?
We have 70 million consumers, and we're the biggest small business lender. So that's not it. The issue they're focused on is the regulators' impact on this industry. And you heard Senator Scott talk about this week. This reputation, this after the fact look that you banked X, and now after the fact you're going to say X didn't turn out to be what you thought. So we look at it based on risk. People may feel those decisions are made for some other reason, but we always make it on what's best for our company, what's best for the client.
Are there industries you're uncomfortable doing business with?
No, we do business with really
guns, oil and gas, tobacco, all of it.
We do business with all those industries. Individual companies, because of credit decision stuff, that's different. But the reality is,
hold on now. No. That is part of your business, allowing credit. So you're saying, we accept their banking. I mean, of course, we'll make money on the interest that they, the money that they put into our bank. But as far as help them expand their business by giving out credit, I can't fully answer that. Yeah, I don't know about that, buddy.
Business with all those industries. Individual companies, because of credit decision stuff, that's different. But the reality is that if they gave us clarity from the regulatory thing and avoid the second guessing, that would be helpful. And I think that's what the president was pointing out if you listen to it.
Okay.
All right. Brian Moynihan, thank you for giving.
All right, now let's get into our man, Dr. Oz, because we all know how important Medicaid is and drug prices are to our liberal watchers. So let's get right into it. And rightfully so. Y'all should stick on that. Stay strong on that stance. All right, guys, let's go.
For the country's change is coming for the country's Medicaid system as part of the enactment of the Big Beautiful Bill. To help us understand what's ahead, we turn now to the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Good morning.
And shout out to my man Monty. We got to put up a victory poll. I think I can get a majority of the chat to side with me, including you. All right. We'll see. We'll see.
Morning. Welcome to Face the Nation.
Why not? Why not?
Thank you.
Sounds funny.
You've got a lot
It
of work
sounds
ahead. I want to start on drug costs. The president put this 25% tariff on India, big drug producer. The president's trade deal with the EU puts a 15% tariff on imported medicines from Europe. How do you stop the drug makers from passing along those costs to people on Medicare and Medicaid?
Well, the president's letter on Thursday for most favored nation pricing is a good example of that. And he's been working on this tirelessly since the first administration. And just to put this in context for many of the viewers, about 2/3 of bankruptcies in America are caused by healthcare expenses. About a third of people, when they go to the pharmacy, they leave empty-handed. They can't afford the medication. So the president has said, enough global freeloading. We've been covering much of the development costs for new drugs to cure cancer, deal with lots of other illnesses that are life-threatening. It isn't time for the American public to understand that we should not be paying 3 times more for the exact same medication in the same box, made in the same factory. So the president's saying,
I mean, that we pay for the research and develop. And a lot of these drugs, we're the ones who made them. Shout out to Americans. Shout out to the innovation of Americans. Y'all done made most of the medicine out here that we overpay for. I mean, the disrespect is real.
equalize it out. Let's use a model that's worked, for example, for external threats. That's what NATO did. Everyone has to pay a little more. We'll pay extra too, but we won't pay a lot more than everybody else. So they actually have to raise their contributions, in this case to an internal threat, which is illness. We'll pay a little less than America. That way more Americans can afford these medications. And it's a fair system for the entire globe.
So this was declared in these letters that were sent out to 17 pharmaceutical companies this past week, and it calls for extending that to Medicaid drug prices. Is that intended to offset what will be, cuts to Medicaid? And do you know, if the companies are actually going to follow through on this? Like, how do you actually strong arm them into doing it?
We'll just get the numbers correct. We're putting $200 billion more dollars into Medicaid. So we're actually investing in Medicaid.
Costs are going up. So.
Costs are going up, but there's been a 50% increase in the cost of Medicaid over the last 5 years. So I'm trying to save this beautiful program, this noble effort to help folks, giving them a hand up. And as you probably gather, if Medicaid isn't able to take care of the people for whom it was designed, the young children, the dawn of their life, those at the twilight of their life, the seniors, and those who are disabled, living in the shadows, as Hubert Humphrey said, then we're not satisfying the fundamental obligation of a moral government. And this president has said over and over that he believes that it is the wise thing and the noble thing to help those who are vulnerable. And every great society does that. We're going to as well. So we're going to invest in Medicaid as is required, but we want an appropriate return on that investment. One thing that Medicaid patients should not face are drug prices they can't afford.
Right.
Then,
how do you enforce this?
Well, the pharmaceutical companies, if you sit them down quietly, Margaret, and we've done that, and say, you went into this business at some point because you cared about people. I know there's many out there shaking their heads, but that is actually the truth. People go into healthcare, whether they're pharmaceutical companies or insurance companies or the PBMs or anybody in the space. Even the CMS, the most impressive thing to me in my new task that the president's appointed me to is the remarkable quality of the people within the organization. Just unbelievably talented. They went into this job because they care about healthcare and about people. Somewhere along the lines, people forget. They put numbers ahead of patients. And when that happens, then you start running the problem. So we went to the pharmaceutical companies and he said, you appreciate this is not a fair system. We should not be paying more in America, 3 times more for your products than you charge in Europe. They get the joke. They understand the reality of this problem. They're engaging.
I mean, yeah, it's either find an equilibrium when we're paying, where everybody's paying a fair price. We're all paying the same price and you guys can keep y'all profits. Or is either you're just going to dramatically lower our price to most favored nation, or you're going to raise everybody else's prices to pay our price, which is kind of going to screw everybody. So it's like an ABC option, but most likely they are going to probably go with the equilibrium of just trying to find a price where everybody can agree that's fair, and the pharmaceutical companies can continue to keep their profit.
With us, we're in the middle of those negotiations. The president has a unique power to convene. We've done it with dealing with prior authorization, this heinous process where patients feel like they're trying to get care from a doctor and everything's being done, except all of a sudden the arm of insurance comes in and stops the whole process for unknown reasons for weeks, sometimes months. The insurance companies representing 80% of the American public got together And they said, because we pushed them, we're going to deal with this. We can do the same, I believe, with the pharmaceutical industry with most favored nation pricing.
Let me ask you about the changes that are coming because of this new law to Medicaid, which is jointly administered between the feds and the states. There are major reductions to federal healthcare spending here. One of the changes are these work requirements. It's about 20 hours a week, volunteer or work, to qualify for health care. What is the guidance you are giving to states on how to implement this? Because in this economy, things are more complicated. Uber driver, independent contractor, how do they show they work their 20 hours a week?
Last weekend, I was at the National Governors Association with Secretary Kennedy, who has been a big advocate of work as well. Every Democratic president and Republican president has said that the foundation of a healthy welfare system, of a social system of support, is work.
Right, but I'm asking how you actually implement that and register it so that people who are working do qualify and they don't get caught up in paperwork because they didn't file something on time. That kind
as
of
long
thing.
as we're okay that people should work and would want to work, and it's not just work, it's community engagement. They can go get educated, right? They can take care of family members.
Right.
I mean, that is also true. They can volunteer, they can be in school, and they'll still be eligible for Medicaid.
They can contribute in some other ways, but work's a great way of doing it and get you out of poverty if you can find jobs and elevate yourself. There have been efforts to do this in the past, but they haven't been able to achieve what we can achieve because we have technologies now, and we've invested already, as soon as the bill was signed, began pilots to try to demonstrate that we can actually do this correctly. We have pilots now in Louisiana and in Arizona. In both cases, within 7 minutes, you can click on where you're working. You mentioned Uber. You're an Uber driver. You click that button on your phone. It just takes you to your payroll provider. Let's say it's ADP. We then ask your permission. Can we connect with this payroll provider to demonstrate what you've actually been able to work and earn over the past month? This also, by the way, confirms your eligibility. But there's a bigger benefit here. Once you do that, you're in, you're done. However, what if we take one step further, Margaret? What if we go beyond just proving that you tried to work to actually saying, you know what, you didn't work enough, but we can actually help you by connecting you to your employment
So you're
office.
still figuring out the technology, but isn't there an end of December deadline for a lot of these things to be figured out? And how do you make sure that people don't get kicked off? Because in the state of Georgia, which already had work requirements, they have really struggled to make this work.
Well, a couple of things. It's not the end of December. It's end of December a year from now. And Georgia's apples and oranges. Georgia had a program only for people under the poverty level. And for those people, if they wanted, they could elect to come into a system to help them get jobs. There have been 50,000 reduction in headcount of uninsured people in the overall program in the last 5 years. Overall, Georgia, 2 million less uninsured people. So Georgia's using a lot of tactics, and they're going in the right direction. I would argue that if you have confidence in the American people and their desire to take the offer to try to get a job, if we challenge you to that. And remember, if you're an able-bodied person on Medicaid, you're spending 6.1 hours watching television or it's leisure time. So you don't want that.
KFF Health Policy found 92% of adult Medicaid recipients already are working, or they have the carve out because they have to have caregivers or they have to do other things.
They're fine. All they have to do is there'll be a simple app. If you've already carved out, that's super simple. If you're supposed to be, if you're able-bodied and you're supposed to be working, we want to help connect you to the job market and get you into work. We have,
I mean, people have their phones in their hands all the time. So, I mean, having to access an app so you can keep your Medicaid should be a very small task, especially considering how much hours people spend on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I mean, if you can't spend that same amount of time to make sure you got Medicaid, I mean, do you really deserve Medicaid?
twice as many jobs available in America as people who seem to want them. The foundation of work is not just about fulfilling eligibility. The goal of healthcare insurance is to catalyze action in the right direction, to get you healthier, to give you agency over your future so you recognize you matter and you should have a job there for to go out and change the world.
So there's a drug addiction problem in this country. How are those changes going to impact people who are on Medicaid in states like Kentucky, in states like West Virginia?
In many instances, they're carve-outs for folks who have substance use disorder problems. There are programs to
support. How do they prove that?
Well, they can either.
Is this in the app?
Yes, it'll be in the app. In the app, again, this is being developed by the United States Digital Service, led by Amy Gleason, who's a wonderful technologist. She and I were with the President and Secretary Kennedy and the head of the czar for AI in this country on Wednesday, talking about overall how we're going to change the use of health technology in America. We've got to get into 2025 with health technology, as is true in every other sector. If you're watching the show right now, you could also have been streaming media. You could take a an Uber somewhere, the ride share. You could do an Airbnb. Technology should make the system more efficient. We should have confidence that will also allow us to do what we all agree is possible. If the whole challenge to a work requirement is that you don't have confidence in our ability to accomplish it, that's a separate question, because I do have confidence in the American people, and we have confidence we can pull this off. Look at the passport system, Margaret. Right now, you can go and get a passport in 2 weeks without having to go to the post office, send pictures, and all that's gone. It's fixable. Let's use technology.
I'm still confused on
I'm for
how
that.
someone who is in the throes of substance abuse is going to use an app to say I'm in the throes of substance abuse every week to file on.
I mean, they use an app to get the substance. I mean, sometimes they use an app to sell the substance. So if they can go ahead and use their phone to get, themselves on drugs, then why can't they use their phone to get themselves off of drugs or report themselves being on drugs? Like, isn't that kind of just looking down on them a little bit?
When they go in to get their help for their substance use treatment, assuming they're going for help on that, they can also get enrolled in those requirements can be fulfilled. We want to tuck them in as many ways as possible. It's not going to happen just because we put an app out there. You have social workers and other folk elements who care a lot about this population who are coming together, but they have to have some mechanism to report back. That just has not been done well.
And let's be honest, though, people are saying, well, what about the old ladies and all that? I mean, it's going to be a lot easier for your grandma to sign up on her phone than honestly try to sign up, like go to wherever she needs to go to get the paperwork, or they send the paperwork for her and all this wild stuff. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to do it through technology. And then those of you who think that everybody's using a landline, old people still use landlines. Majority of old people got a touchscreen phone. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, trust me, guys, it's not the 90s.
And this is incredibly detailed, and that's why we wanted to have you on. I have so many more questions for you on rural hospitals and some of the other criticisms. I have to leave it there for now, but thank you, Dr.
Can I
Oz.
give you 30 seconds on rural hospitals, because this is important. You have 7% of Medicaid money going to rural hospitals. We're putting $50 billion. The president wants us, the Congress wants us.
There are a lot of questions about how you're going to dole that out and whether you have already made promises.
Well, they've already allocated about 25 billion. Now they're about to add another 25. So, I mean, they got the first 25 off.
Do you have any specifics for us?
Yes, it's going to be, they'll get the applications in early September. The money is designed to help you with workforce development, right sizing the system, and using technology to provide things like telehealth that can change the world. But imagine if we can change the way we think about the delivery of health and make it more about getting people healthy so they can thrive and flourish and be fully present in their own lives and as Americans.
Dr. Oz, we'll leave it there.
All right. And shout out to Dr. Oz. All right, now, guys, let's get into the EPA director, the guy who's pretty much getting cooked all over the internet for, cutting back regulations. The climate change guys are pretty much having this guy's face all on their dartboards. It's a wild night. But all right, let's get into it.
It's called the endangerment finding. It's a landmark scientific determination.